You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
But it's 633 Kilo. Don't forget now, dial 719. Don't forget. What if there's someone who doesn't know you have to dial 719 now? And they're wondering why they can't reach anyone?
You got to do it. 719.
Do you think there's someone out there who's like, for what reason all my friends' phones are broke?
Nobody wants to talk to me anymore.
I can't get anyone. It's so weird.
Ross, I'm not dating myself, but when I was growing up in La Junta, Colorado is my hometown.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's right. My parents are from that area. My mom's from Los Animas. My dad's from La Junta. My sister and I were both born there. I lived there till, just before junior high. It was the late elementary school. But what you would dial is, I think 384 is the prefix. So 719-384 ... All you had to do to dial somebody was just dial the 4.
The final 4 numbers,
just the 4 and then the final 4.
Really?
So it'd be like 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4, 2, 4, 2, 5.
Man, saving some time.
Yeah, I know.
It seems like we're going backwards, huh? Now you got to dial a buttload of numbers.
Yeah, it's
not cool.
Anyway, but remember, 800-800-8543 or 719-444-4444. I wanted to get that in there.
We're to conquer.
So I don't bore.
Who do we got? Anonymous, we got Sam, we got John. The Anonymous is lost love, Dave.
Ooh.
Happens all the time, doesn't it?
I'm still trying to find mine.
Love
Still
is
trying to find mine. Oh, where did it go?
A couple together
I
for
wish she'd walk back in my front door.
17 years, didn't get married.
Yep.
Now it's Splitsville, baby, and they're trying to split up the things they accumulated.
Okay.
And because everything is in her name, others not entitled to anything according to that person. I don't know.
All right, tell me, we want to talk about that, or what?
Let's just wait. We'll get to that one here. It hits close to home too because I was always like anti-marriage. Me and my wife loved each other. That's all we needed, right? So we're like, we're not going to get married. We're going to just do our thing. You don't need to get married.
Like the Beatles, love is all you need.
Yeah, I always look at it like a trap. It's like, hey, get in debt when you're really young and in love, and kind of have the whole society point to, well, you have to do this. You have to spend $20,000 or you don't love that person.
Yeah, I know.
And then you start your young life, $30,000 in debt for nothing.
I know.
It's not a house payment. It's not a car or something like that, right?
Then later on a divorce, which is what happened to me. Because with my marriage, I wanted to get, I thought, let's just elope. Because eloping is very inexpensive usually.
Right. That's what we eventually would do. We just run to Mexico one day and boom.
And that's the way to do it. But I was going to elope, and then all of a sudden we thought, well, no, we've got family and friends who want to participate in the celebration. Pretty soon, we end up having a pretty big wedding. With the Broadmoor Hotel, we're spending a lot of money on the pre-band, the band, the post-band, everything. And then, 5 years later, whoop.
And then, then you're like, oh, man.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of money for 5 years.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of anti-marriage. And then my wife would lose her job during that collapse in 2008.
Yeah.
And then just trying to work my benefits with her. They were blocking. It was so difficult. We're like, all right, we need to really get married and I guess play the game. Play the damn game. But if you don't play the game, if you don't play the game, what happens? That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else? I think I got one that we're going to just smash right now. You ready?
Okay, let's do it.
McDivitt, smash this. Can a plea be changed after the defendant signs that plea?
Well, that's a little tricky.
Oh, man, I thought that was like of all the questions we've gotten over the couple of years here.
There are
I thought that was like an easy no.
No. There's some circumstances. Will allow for a defendant to withdraw from a plea agreement or withdraw their guilty plea. They can file a motion to withdraw their guilty plea. Now, let me just assume something. We're talking about a plea like of guilt, right? You go in. I'm guessing we don't have a lot of details here. I'm guessing it's a criminal matter, and they've pled guilty, right?
Right. They probably got it off from the DA. So we're going to waive this. You're going to do this. Pay these fines. Sign the deal that you're guilty. And now he's like, well, maybe not. So all right. So what happens? And do you have to claim that you were under the influence of Benadryl or something like that to say I didn't sign it? Honestly, the first time I thought once you ink something, you're screwed. I mean, I'm only going from like some of those stupid TV shows and stuff where the poor kid signs something about a murder, and then they want to stick him in jail for years, even though they forced him to sign it.
Well, see, yeah, I know, and that's the thing. They've got these cases, and it's gone on a long time where that's coercion. Like they've been coerced into making a plea, and so really, what the courts are going to look at is there are some limited circumstances, as I understand it. Now, granted, Ross, I haven't practiced criminal law in a number of years. And so typically what I would see is, with cases, sometimes the defendants are more than eager to take the plea because what they've been accused of, and maybe there's some facts to substantiate it, is far more severe. The sentencing would be far more severe if they didn't accept the plea. But we're assuming a situation here where the guy says, or the woman says, yeah, I signed the plea and I feel like maybe I shouldn't have done it. The judge might look at it. There's a very limited window, too, before sentencing. If the judge decides to reject the sentencing recommendations, they may be able to say, okay, well, my plea was contingent on this kind of a sentence evaluation, right? So,
yes, it is.
Hey, hold on. I think I got John on the phone.
Hey, John.
I'll tell you what. John, it's Ross and Dave McDivitt over here at Kilo.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man, we're talking about your legal problem. Do you want to go on the air and talk a little bit more about it? I think Dave has some questions for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to inquire a little bit.
All right, cool, man. Hold on one second then. I'll put you on hold. We're going to Dave some headphones, and we'll figure out exactly more specifics. Man, I thought, is there anything in the legal world that's cut and dry? Or is it all very much full of avenues?
719-444-4444. Get you to our office. Ross, it's all a lot of this stuff.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Just like everything we always have here, pretty deep. There's no just A or B here, is there?
There's no A or B, but it's mostly A.
Okay.
But there's a tiny B. It's a capital A and a very, very, very tiny B.
You said you want to know more from John. What do you need from this guy? Hey, John. Morning, buddy.
Good morning.
What you got for him?
Hey, John. Thanks for calling in. Hey, I want to just, without getting into too many of the specifics, I want to be able to fairly answer at least try to answer your question here. Okay. Walk me through the circumstances when you entered this plea. How long ago was it? You can disclose as much as you want, I guess, but
of course, it's just more of I and everyone that I knew was under the assumption that the plea that I was signing was going to be a deferred sentence. So I signed it. A month later, I get to see that they signed the plea, the deputy DA or whatever, and he just literally scribbled it out, put his initials, and never revised the plea. So I'm just trying to figure out why you could do that. You can't do it to a check at a bank. No.
Well, let me ask you something.
Just change things.
Did you have an attorney working with you?
Yes, I did.
Okay, have you talked to that attorney? Don't get into the specifics of who it is or what they said, but I'm just going to ask because if you start saying too much about what you said, you can violate your attorney-client confidentiality. So I really don't want you to say what that attorney told you.
No.
But I want to make sure you've at least addressed this.
Yeah, I've tried to. Yes.
Okay. You did not initial these changes?
No, I did not. Neither did my attorney.
And what does the change then mean for you? Originally deferred sentence, are they asking you for, now you have to spend some time? Or what?
Well, basically, I'm now a permanent felon.
Wow.
And I've never had previous criminal history.
Okay. And so your argument is that they misrepresented.
They should have waived that deferred sentence with, I'm sure, a probation stipulation, right? As long as you don't violate anything in X amount of time, you're done. That's what you thought, right?
Take it away. You should revise it.
So I'm just confused here. They gave you a piece of paper that explained it would be a deferred sentence. Explained all of that. You signed it. Then they later went and modified it, initialed their modifications, and then signed it themselves?
Yes, and then submitted to ISIS, and then that was accepted. I didn't know of the change until I sat down with my probation officer.
Wow.
All right.
That's a bombshell.
Now, let me ask you this. When you entered your plea, or did you do this in open court in front of a judge?
Yes.
Okay.
So the plea, I accepted the plea in front of a judge. I think that's what it is. But like I said, I've never been in trouble before, so I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew to say, yes, ma'am.
Okay, but did the judge, did she explain to you what the sentence was, what the repercussions of accepting the plea were?
Yes, I just didn't know there was a secondary piece for a deferment. I've never been, like I said, I've never been in trouble before, so I know I just signed a deferred plea, and I thought that's what I was doing.
All right, but did she explain to you it was a deferred plea?
I never heard deferred brought up, no.
Could you get court records to find out exactly what was said in court, do you think, Dave?
Yes, I do have the minutes somewhere.
Okay, have you reviewed those? The minutes are different than a trial transcript.
Right. I haven't had a chance to because I'm still in some Supreme Court's proceedings on part of it, so I just haven't had a chance to dig into them, but I have requested them.
Okay. So you've got something, you're appealing something to the Supreme Court, is that right?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
That's a tough place to be.
Yeah, and usually it's part of an appeal to any kind of more advanced court, like more of a superior court, Court of Appeals, Colorado Supreme Court. The process would be to obtain a trial transcript because you want to look at whether there was error somewhere. Because I guess your argument would be that there was some material misrepresentation. I mean, that's the only thing I can just think of right now. I mean, my understanding, John, is with trying to withdraw a plea. I mean, there's a formal process of maybe filing a motion to withdraw the plea. It usually needs to be done before sentence is imposed. And really, for it to work, you'd have to show some kind of, in your situation, material misrepresentation. And I don't know how much of that has already been done. I don't know if you've talked to your lawyer about those particular steps. If that lawyer is not responsive to you, I mean, I certainly would recommend, because this is obviously a very important issue for you, as it should be,
yes,
that you find a lawyer who is versed in criminal law, who is versed in the criminal appellate process.
Okay.
And I don't know who is handling this Supreme Court appeal.
As of right now, just because of how much the initial case drained my pocket, public defender, but she seems to care a lot more than my previous attorney did.
Okay. All right.
Wow, your public defender seems to care more than the guy you paid money to?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so, and John, I mean, look, you've got so many questions.
Let's say this is what he wants to happen, right? Find the transcripts, have the judge lay out his deferred sentence exactly as he had planned, and then show that that's not what happened.
Right. I guess
that's like perfect. That would work. Right. Yes.
Yeah. Ideal scenario. I mean, John, you're in a kind of a tricky pickle. The good news is you've got attorneys working for you, and so I don't want to say anything. You know, I'm always a little cautious about saying something unless I know all of the facts, because you have in front of you attorneys who know your situation, who know everything that was presented to you, have the details. They're obviously in a better position to advise you on this. I mean, I can just tell you in general, there are like I told Ross, we have A or B. Well, A is generally no, you can't change a plea. There's a very small B. Or, yeah, it could happen under a certain set of facts where the law does provide an avenue to withdraw a plea, but again, it's under very narrow circumstances, and there's a very narrow window in which to do that too. And without, I mean, because look, I would love to just sit here and pepper you with all of these questions, because you've brought up so many different things that to me are
red flags.
Well, I wouldn't say red flags, but they made me say, okay, so you've got a public defender now, and that usually happens after certain circumstances take place. You had a private attorney. There's an appeal here. Is it the Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court? I mean, there are so many different things. There's so many layers to this, and I just need to be very careful with how I answer this.
No, I understand.
Yeah, in general, I
think that's what we've learned, exactly what a quagmire the whole legal system really is. I mean, there are no cut and dry answers.
It is. But
John, I wish we could have just said, hey, do this.
This is a typo.
What's that? Yeah.
You know, how can you tell people it's a typo? You know, that's literally everyone's response. It must have just been a typo, so he revised it and submitted it.
That's like a plot. That's like a plot to a movie.
That's material. You would argue that that's not. I mean, that type of a typo isn't just a typo. It goes to the material element, the foundational element of the plea.
Right.
And again, that's why the transcript will. I mean, you might have a judge that said, "You understand that this is a deferred sentence, and here is what." Usually, what a judge will do is explain, "This is what a deferred sentence means," right?
Right. And I've seen that when I finally had my extended courts. I saw other judges do that for other sentences, and I was like, "Well, that shit didn't happen for me." And then
where's mine?
Yeah, like what's the deal? I signed one that says plea. I got people who actually probably know Ross Ford close to Kilo. He's been in this town forever. He helped me through this process, and he remembers me signing a deferred sentence.
Yeah, I mean, Ross used to.
What was given to me?
It's unbelievable. Like I said, this is like a movie plot or something like that. Or what was that? Locked Up Abroad. Remember that TV show for a while where people fall into these quagmires, and overseas they get sucked into. These ones getting locked up overseas. It's just horrible.
No, that's a nightmare scenario.
Oh, man.
That's another call. John,
right.
Good luck with this.
John,
I'm sorry, but talk to your lawyer. I'm glad you've got somebody who cares.
Yeah, and isn't it sad to think that his public defenders is more on the case than...
I'm going to go to bat for public defenders. I used to be one. I mean, these attorneys care deeply. They work so hard.
Good.
It is and at times it's a thankless position too, because they're not paid
right?
The same that maybe a private attorney might earn. I mean, these attorneys work very hard.
Give them some love.
Yeah.
Good job. All right, well, we'll tell you what. Love for Sale. We'll get to Love Gone Bad coming up here next as, it happens, you know. Love comes, love goes.
Love hurts.
Together for 17 years, never got married, though. What does that mean when it comes to splitting up stuff? Interesting. We'll field that one next right here at Kilo.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Well,
Lobbyist, you had to lobby the phone company?
We know people who know people.
Right, threatens
I'm just saying, that guy wanted his legs, so we let him keep his legs.
All right, well, no easy answer last time through with Citizen John. Yeah. Man, we wish you the best, buddy. Hopefully you get through this thing. I think we were talking off the air, proves a great point. You need to stay sharp if you're in some kind of a legal problem. It's nothing to be kind of thrown back. I don't know. I'm not saying that John was not focused on his thing, but man, it's serious because trying to undo this after it all happens, we've learned over past editions of this segment, it's hard.
Listen, unless it's your mom, basically, nobody really is going to care about you as much as you need to care about you.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Good point. Let's get to Lost Love, Dave. Lost Love. It comes, it goes. A sad one, though. 17 years together, a couple splitting up, and now one say, well, since we weren't married, all the stuff is mine. Good luck. It's amazing how you go from, oh, you're so nice, I love you, to all your stuff is mine.
I want to keep everything and you must leave.
And of course, you said you dealt with a divorce.
Yeah, but I mean, that's tough. No, I've been through this, man. And so what do we have? Who wrote this? Or
was Stan Anonymous, considered disabled, but not entitled to anything, according to her. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of because I don't understand. How do I go about keeping? Wow, I didn't think about this. I want to keep my phone number. I want to keep other items from my ex. What do they do?
All right, so a couple of different things. The first thing I'm going to say is if this is stuff that's very crucial and it's very important and she's not cooperating, get a lawyer. I mean that. Try to get somebody who can help you out. Here are a couple of things.
Quickly, let's start with this question. If they, in fact, were legally married, it would be a different world right now?
It might be, but keep in mind, I know he's saying in his email to you he wasn't married. You can.
It's actually it's a girl. It's a couple ladies.
Oh, a couple ladies. Okay, well, you can still kind of become married too. I mean, there's the whole concept of common law marriage.
Yeah. What is that?
Apply. It usually requires that you hold yourself out to the community as married. You just say, yeah, this is my wife, and so this is you start sharing things in a way that
I would assume in 17 years that has probably happened.
I might have. They may be common law married, and so they require. Well, it's facts and circumstances, so that's why I say get in a family law attorney who's going to be able to help answer her questions really well to kind of explain what the situation is. So any kind of a question like this, you've got to start with a predicate understanding of what really is the dynamic here. What's the framework? I mean, you might say you're not married. She might have said you are married, right? You may have told your whole community of friends might say, yeah, they've been married for years. Just because now you're saying you're not doesn't just unwind a common law marriage.
Years, okay.
So that's a separate issue, but it is an important issue to start with. But if you want to get into the nitty gritty about how to divide these assets, I mean, you have to look at whether, something might be in somebody else's name, but for the most part, it's more of a shared marital asset, for example. Telephone numbers, if you don't truly have a marriage, then you have to look at things like, let's say they had a Verizon cell phone plan and it was under her wife's name. And they had two numbers on that plan. Then what you can do is the woman who wrote in can go ahead and get her own plan, whether it's with Verizon or somebody else, and with the permission of her ex, get that number ported over. I mean, you'd think that the ex wouldn't really have any issue with just releasing that telephone number and then not being under the financial obligation to pay for it.
An ugly scenario where that is the fact where it's like, you ain't getting your number, you ain't getting that, you ain't getting nothing.
Yeah, and I know. I know. So that's why I say, look, try to, my first suggestion is always try to work some of this stuff out because getting an attorney will cost some money.
Right.
And there's no other, the reason that you get the attorney also, A, you understand what your rights are. B, you have some more leverage. Because if you try to do it yourself, these two women are squabbling over this stuff. Neither of them are going to budge. Well, it's goes back to this whole like possession is 9/10 of the law. Like if I've got your number and you want the number and I'm not going to give you the number, you're not getting the number, right? Unless you're able to get me to give you the number, right? And the same with whatever asset. And I don't even know if we're talking about bank accounts. I don't know if we're talking about a sofa. Proof of purchase is going to be helpful. I know you're on disability, but you brought in that disability check came to the shared house. I'm assuming they had a residence together, an apartment, a house, whatever. So that money comes in, and does that get kind of commingled into some kind of, and I use in air quotes, the marital pot here? Married or not, but I mean, they shared this money, and so some of that money went to pay for this, went to pay for that. Some of her wife's money went to pay for this or pay for that. I mean, it is messy, and it can be sorted out. Sometimes it takes time, effort, and money to do it. And sometimes all three of those are in very short supply.
It's one reason I'm a proponent of being asexual. Because this doesn't happen to people. All my asexual friends have none of this going through their lives.
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I don't even know, where does she begin then? Obviously, the easy answer is come to terms, put the big pants on, get things worked out between yourselves.
Here's what I would do. Just general life advice. I would just say, hey, listen, go to her with a list of the things that are really important to you and say, this is what I would like. I don't want to make an issue for you. We're breaking up. Fair enough. I want my telephone number. I want the sofa. I want this and I want that. I don't think it's fair for you not to, but come up with a very clear idea of what it is that you want.
Okay.
And make it so that it's less of an amorphous situation here where people, you don't quite know what you want. Be really concrete about what it is that you want out of this. And then get an understanding of why she is saying you're not entitled to it or she won't give that to you. That at least gives you some foundation when you go see an attorney to say, hey, listen, these are the 5 things that are really important to me. Can you help me? I'll pay you by the hour, but can you help me negotiate a release of these 5 things?
Also, explain that to your ex, too, because then suddenly your ex is going to probably need to spend some money on a lawyer.
That's right.
No one wants that. No one wants to spend money on a lawyer, right, David?
Nobody does. Except the lawyer.
But it's, except for the lawyer.
That's a joke.
Necessary, though, sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
No. And by the way, you know who spends a lot of money on lawyers? Lawyers. Really, if you own a business, we own a business. We have lawyers help us with real estate, with employment issues. Well, we use lawyers for all sorts of things. I mean, they are the keys to this whole system,
right.
Our framework, our civil justice system, but not just the civil justice system, but the framework of laws that keep everything kind of in balance here. I mean, you talk about, think about Star Wars and the Force. It binds us. I mean, the laws bind us. And for some, they don't like the way that it binds them. And they're taking it probably too literally when I say it like that. But I mean, lawyers are the people who help people through these issues. Help navigate this process of life.
Oh, that makes sense. That's a good way to put it. Look at you. Good analogy. Let's get to our the obvious COVID question of the week.
Had to have one.
Let's talk COVID, Dave. Right. As we've been beating around COVID stories for almost 2 years now, believe it or not. Isn't that crazy?
We're 4 months shy of our anniversary.
And you nailed it. You talked about how this is going to be, legally speaking, this is going to extend well past this pandemic.
Oh, yeah. As
we sort out exactly what the hell we just went through, right?
Yep.
So we got Sam. We tried to get him on the phone for more answers to what he's getting at, but he didn't answer. But basically, it reads COVID vaccines. Is there any recourse for mandatory vaccines, specifically federal civil service members? So I assume a postal member, something like that, maybe in the military, forced him vax. And maybe he already got the vaccine forcibly. If he's going to be able to sue someone one day, where are we in this? Or is that still one of those questions that's not answered yet?
No, I think, look, for the most part, the federal government is an employer, right? And so they've mandated, as I understand it, that their employees are vaccinated. With any employer who mandates a vaccination, there are and have always been carve-outs for people to not get vaccinated.
Medical, religious.
Yep. And those are the two.
That's it.
Yeah, medical and religious. So, so for the religious exemption, for example, it requires an actual showing that it violates a deeply held religious belief. And it's not enough usually to just say, oh, you know what, I started practicing this religion last week and it says no vaccine, so you can't make me do it. And so it's not that. It is it has to be proven that this is the way you've lived your
Something's
life.
been part of your life for a while.
And you, by the way, you've never gotten the flu vaccine or any vaccine for that matter. As a conscious adult who's able to make those decisions. And the other thing would be people who are protected generally under, let's just say, the Americans with Disabilities Act. So for some reason, there is truly a medical contraindication for taking the vaccine. And, 95% of the people that I hear say, medically I can't take the vaccine, that's not substantiated by the medical evidence or by any kind of a doctor's analysis of it. That's just them saying, I just don't, we can start talking about the Green Bay Packers if you want to, but we can really get into this. But there are, have to get to a point where it has to be proven that you've got a particular disability that will just really interfere with your ability to take the vaccine, or the vaccine will interfere with your ability to stay healthy. So those are really the only two carve-outs for it. Now, maybe his question is, can I sue my federal employer? Can I sue the federal government for making me do this? And you can. You can sue a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Most of the time that will be unsuccessful and it won't have any merit and will get kicked out of court. What we're seeing right now, we've obviously seen a flurry of lawsuits at the state and local levels, at the federal level, dealing with private employers, public employers. We've got some the Biden's directive that private employers with 100 or more employees have to have a vaccinated workforce. They have to impose a mandatory vaccine or at least weekly testing. That has been stayed in a federal district court in New Orleans, and that is going to play out. That whole issue is going to play out over the next several months. So there are legal challenges to some of this.
Or is this something that could play out forever? You look at the abortion fight that has been going on since Roe versus Wade before we were even born.
Sure, there will be challenges to this from time to time. They will pop up, but I think for the most part, the law is fairly settled that an employer can mandate the vaccine.
It seems like this falls in the similar case that we had several months back during the pandemic about people not wanting to wear a mask on airplanes. Like, you don't have the legal right to fly.
To get on the plane.
All right? That's a private industry. Obviously, subsidies fall from the government to keep it afloat, but there's no constitutional right to fly. You can jump into your car and drive if you don't want to wear a mask. So does this kind of fall in the same thing with jobs? You don't have a right to have a job.
Yep.
If you don't enjoy that, get another job.
That's right. Find an employer that's choosing not to impose a vaccine. So it's
crazy times.
Yeah, but generally, Sam, I think it's pretty limited if you want to continue to have that job.
Right. Interesting. Wow. I still can't believe we're bouncing questions like that off the wall still. 18 months later. Insane, isn't it, buddy?
In the membrane.
Insane in the membrane
all
is
sorts
right.
of, maybe not even relevant. I guess Cypress Hill is...
Oh, the Cypress Hill's tight.
That's real. I was doing a Beatles reference earlier, and then...
Beatles are cool.
Who sings Love Hurts? I can't remember that.
I think is that Journey?
No, it's not Journey.
Meatloaf?
No, it's not Meatloaf. Love Hurts.
I don't know. But that one sucks. I'll give you... But 2 out of 3 ain't bad, buddy.
Yeah, there you go.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. As always, Mr. McDivitt, appreciate your time and your knowledge, man.
Ross, I miss you when I'm not here.
Oh, man!
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.